One Piece chapter 115 is out, and Oda, being Oda, has dropped bomb after bomb after bomb, revealing some amazing information on the Void Century and Joy Boy. But most importantly, we get to see him. So guys, we're gonna jump right into it. So subscribe and leave a like if you liked the video. But this is officially the first depiction of Joy Boy in the manga, and he looks like, well, Luffy. It's only a silhouette, so no details are seen, but to see Joy Boy using what looks like Gear 5th against the Shadowy Kings is one for the ages. This also makes me wonder if Devil Fruits existed during Joy Boy's time. In chapter 1037, the Gorosei mentioned that the Gomu Gomu no Mi hadn't awakened in centuries. They don't give a specific date, but it seems they're referring to Joy Boy as the last awakened user. This can mean two things. Joy Boy ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi and later awakened it, or he manifested a dream to become Nika, and thus, after the battle with the 20 Kingdoms, his powers were somehow transferred to a fruit and then began a centuries-long history of avoiding the world government. Because those guys seem to have a habit of storing fruits in chests, and we all know that fruits are meant to be eaten. Either way, Joy Boy is a confirmed awakened user. So there's a lot to cover in this chapter, but I want to move on to the Gorosei next because two key factors were just established. First, both St. Marcus Mars and St. Garcia Saturn joined St. Warkery as Conqueror's Haki users. We can see both Mars and Saturn casually using Conqueror's Haki to knock out every snail within their vicinity. It's not as easy to tell that Saturn's using Conqueror's Haki, but if you look closely, you can see the tendril of black lightning and the collapsing snails as well in this panel. Oddly, this is actually a plus to Vegapunk, because how far ahead was he thinking? He clearly collected dozens, if not hundreds of snails just so that his message would continue uninterrupted. It also makes me wonder how much he knows about the Gorosei and their powers, but I digress. I must say that Marcus Mars is becoming one of my favorite Gorosei. Every time we've seen him in Egghead, he has absolutely commanded the scene. From his encounter with Lucci to casually blowing a hole in the lab, he's clearly about that business and not one to take prisoners. We also see that Warkery is still chasing Luffy, Dory, and Bragi, and he's essentially just become a bulldozer destroying everything in front of him. And while I do think Luffy and company will escape, this difference in power reminds me of Sabaody. Truly, the Straw Hats currently cannot hope to fight and defeat the Gorosei, even with the most ridiculous power in their arsenal. The Gorosei are not only seemingly immortal and unbelievably durable, but they are also extremely powerful. Case in point, after Venus Juro frees himself from the grasp of the giants and delivers a quick L to Sanji, sorry Sanji fans, he takes aim at Bonnie, who's narrowly saved from certain death by the quick actions of Frankie. Venus Juro's missed slash then proceeds to slice off the top of the Elbaf giant's ship's mast and figurehead, but that's nothing compared to what he does next. We proceed to witness St. Venus Juro bifurcate the upper floating island of Egghead, which is a bigger deal than most realize. If you thought Zoro cutting Pika in half was impressive, it wasn't. Mihawk cutting Aokiji's ice tsunami, it wasn't. Even Law slicing clean through Sad and the mountain at Punk Hazard, it just wasn't that impressive. Okay, that one was still pretty impressive. But what Venus Juro did is the single most powerful sword slash we've seen, and he did it casually. The Gorosei are truly top-tier fighters. It seems the only reason they haven't decimated the giant pirates and the Straw Hats is because they merely aren't their focus. Vegapunk is their main attention. He has their attention. But moving on, we see that the Straw Hats are still attempting to escape, and Jinbei is still carrying Zoro for some reason, though he's no longer flying. Zoro does seem to be fine, or at least he seemed fine after his fight with Lucci, so it's a little strange that Zoro's still using Jinbei as a bus, or maybe they just don't want Zoro getting lost, so they said, Zoro, you're just not walking. But then we continue on, and we see that there's a connection between Stella and Stussy. Being a clone of Buckingham Stussy, it seems she has some kind of parental connection to Vegapunk, and I wonder if the same feelings are shared by the Seraphim. I will say that the Seraphim are different, seeing as though they are programmed to follow any direct order by their superiors, but we've already seen S-Snake share the same feelings for Luffy as her original Boa, even disregarding some orders. So this may be a foreshadowing of some kind of the Seraphim eventually tapping more into their humanity, something that we also have seen in Kuma. And this also takes me to the meat of the chapter today, the war between Joy Boy and the 20 Kingdoms, and the battle between two ideologies. And I believe this battle between ideologies is a simple battle between distinct types of peace. Peace through justice and control, and peace through freedom. And I can see now why the war is still going on and why Vegapunk cannot say who's right or wrong. Even today, though Luffy fights for freedom, characters like Blackbeard fight for that same freedom in a very different way. And on the opposite side, Kobe fights for justice, and on that very same side, Admiral Greenbull exists fighting for the same justice. Dragon and the revolutionaries fight for freedom and have caused countless wars and death because of it. Yet, Imu and the Gorosei seek to maintain equilibrium at any and all costs. Not one can say who's right or wrong, but as we continue to hear Vegapunk's message, we learn about several things. First, is that Joy Boy became known as a pirate, meaning he wasn't referred to as a pirate initially, and it wasn't until the Great War that the title of pirate was bestowed upon him, most likely by the Allied powers, or the world government at the time. It is also interesting to know that the Allied powers were to be a temporary coalition of the 20 kingdoms, allied simply to challenge the might of Joy Boy in the ancient kingdom. So how did they eventually become one under Imu? Why did Nefertari D. Lily refuse the offer to join the world government? Questions that still need to be answered. We learn that at the culmination of the war and Joy Boy's defeat, the sea levels rose 200 meters, or about 656 feet for my American viewers. And there has been a theory in the One Piece community for some time of a worldwide flood, and many of us in the community believe that Imu and the 20 kingdoms are responsible for this rise. But if this crazy weapon here is Uranus, one of the ancient weapons, and the ancient weapons were in the control of the ancient kingdom, then it's possible the ancient kingdom for which Joy Boy fought is responsible for the cataclysmic flooding, responsible for the deaths of potentially millions of people. And this idea is not far-fetched. Looking at Vegapunk today, we can see the destruction that his innocent creations have caused, from Kuma and the Pacificus to the Mother Flame itself. Vegapunk and his technology are not evil, but without acknowledging the potential side effects of your creations, you ignore the dangers they pose. Vegapunk was so quick to see if he could that he didn't stop to think if he should. This is also a thorough line in the Water 7 arc with Frankie and his weapons, which also happens to be where we learn about the blueprints to create Pluton, one of the ancient weapons of old. And I think this theme echoes with the ancient kingdom. Why is the ancient robot apologizing to Joy Boy? And Zunisha sentenced to walk the seas for eternity for some crime? Perhaps some of the decisions made in this great war had unintended consequences. The past may not be so black and white, and Joy Boy may actually be a villain to some, the same way Luffy is today. I have always liked the Shakespearean line, for there is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Perhaps this sentiment can be shared with Haki and Devil Fruits and the 20 kingdoms and the ancient kingdom. And I plan to go more in detail in this topic in a future video, so subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Continuing on, we also visit other characters listening in on the call. We see Momonosuke and Wano with Kinemon, Otama, and Shinobu. We see Demero Black and his crew now cosplaying as the Kid Pirates in prison. I guess the Straw Hats have become a little too famous now. We see the Minks and their new leader in Carrot, and we see the Foxy Pirates whose ship has shrunk considerably. We also see the Revolutionaries and Sabo looking especially serious. We stop by Shimotsuki Village, Kokoyashi Village, and the Sakura Kingdom. We even see the Baroque Works agent, so Oda just giving everyone some screen time. And lastly, we see Morgans with Vivi and Wapple, as well as more reactions from the Marines. I don't know if Kobe is listening in on this call, but I would love to see his reaction. I can't imagine that this information changes much for Akainu, but Kobe's thought process is one I should like to see. And finally, I want to admire this amazing shot of the undersea ruins of a lost city from 800 years ago. I don't think it's the ancient kingdom, as we don't know if it was even sunk, but I cannot wait for Joy Boy's flashback. I still have so many questions that need answering. But all in all, this chapter was absolutely phenomenal. I personally loved it. And the best part of the chapter was that there's no break next week. One of these days, I'm going to rank my favorite arcs in One Piece, and it's looking like Egghead might steal a top spot. We'll see. When we first arrived here, I never saw this ending the way it's ending now, but what a ride it has been. But guys, if you liked the video, hit that like button below and subscribe to the page for an ever-increasing collection of One Piece content. In the meantime, why don't you watch one of these two videos you see here below. Until next time, I've been the Blank Face, and I will see you in the next one.